First of all, a very warm welcome to this webinar. And we guys have put in a lot of work in the back end to put this whole solution package together for all of you. This is basically based on two simple tools. One is the Google Calendar and other is the Google Sheets. So we have developed a very elaborate solution that is going to help you manage your business online better. So first of all, let me just briefly say like what is the need for a solution like this? Firstly, because we were all very used to working offline. So often, sometimes our system contains all the data which is sitting at the desk, at the reception, and the office lady is there, and the owner is there, and the teachers are there, and everybody peeps into the same screen, and everything is managed there. Now, because of COVID, we obviously can't be physically together in one space looking at the same screen. So there's a need to have online system to manage things. So everybody has an access to the same piece of information, and there is no communication gap and the information gap between what you guys are accessing. The other thing obviously is that online is the new offline, right? So this is where your data is very secure. Your machines can crash and all of those things can happen, but online your data is always very safe. Google keeps 2 servers backups and all of those things. So you know that it's very secure. Nobody can really crash into it. As long as your email ID passwords are like strong enough and they're secure, nobody is really going to hack into your account and take away all that information. So you can create a backup. It is advisable. So this sheet is basically made on the Google Sheets, and I'm going to share it one-to-one with you guys. How am I going to do it? And I'll just quickly explain that once this webinar is over, tomorrow you're going to get another round of email with a very short form to fill, where you just put your name, email ID, and decide if you want the solution, yes or no. If you click on yes, I'm going to, on Google Drive, share this solution with your email ID and make you the owner. Once you become the owner, I and the Rock School team does not have access to that file. All the data that you put on it is going to be your data. It's only you will have access to it. You can choose to share it with your admin team if you like. So that is going to be totally your call, how many people you want to share it with, how much access you want to give to those people. You can do all of those things. There are a lot of tools, and I'm going to show you these ways whereby you can lock the information. So all this sensitive information or the cells that contain formulas and you don't want your team to alter those, there's a way to lock those cells as well, and I'm going to share all of those things with you. So let's start with a quick overview of how the schedules are managed on a calendar. Now what I'm showing is actually live schedules of my own academy, and this is one of the 3 branches. So you will see how we are maintaining our thing on the calendar. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and then I will in detail explain how this whole thing works, right? So you can see the calendar right now on the screen. So this is what the calendar of one of my branches looks like. And on the left, you will see these are all the calendars of all the teachers who are teaching at my academy. So there are multiple views available. I'm going to explain each of those views and the shortcuts and all of those things in detail. But this is what a day's schedule may look like. So you can see that there are multiple colored calendars here, and each of the color applies to one of the teachers there, right? So tasks we don't need. So if you click on this, and you will see that who's the teacher, which branch is this teacher for, what instrument is he teaching, what is the name of the student, what is the time of the class. If it's a repeat event, that means this class is happening every week. So that's a weekly frequency. All of those things are visible right here. And if you go to the edit, you can see a lot more information about it. You can even give permission to other people to share this calendar and all of those things. So I'm going to explain all of these things step by step in detail of how this whole calendar thing works. But this is a calendar view. If you want to see, say, one particular teacher's calendar. So suppose on the 11th, I want to see the schedule of, say, this teacher, Imli. I go only display this calendar. So he doesn't have a schedule on the 11th, 12th, no. 13th, he's teaching, and this is the schedule. So this has multiple benefits. You can see that there is no schedule overlapping. So you can't make a class for some other student which is overlapping with any of the times, because you will visually see it on the calendar immediately, right? You can switch on multiple calendars at a time. You can do all of these things, and you will see all the calendars in a week view or 4-day view. You can also see it in a list view if you like. So you can see the start time and the end time and the student name. what is happening with that student, you can do all of those things. There are clever ways that I've devised whereby you can even keep track of the canceled classes or the reschedules or makeup classes and all of those things. So we can do a lot of those things as well. So this is just a quick overview of what your schedules can look like and how you can manage this online. And these are some of the live schedules that are running for one of my branches, right? Now, the other solution that I will be sharing with you is the Excel file. I'm quickly going to just show you how the Excel file functions and what all you can do with it. And then I'm going to obviously in detail explain each and every step of how to manage that Excel file, how to share that Excel file, and yeah, how to take out information from it in a very easy way. So let me go to, so this is the solution, and I will start with very basics here. This is where you maintain a student database. So you put your name of the student. I have obviously changed the numbers and the emails to a dummy data, but these are actually the students of one of my branches. So these are the names of the students and their joining date, date of birth, sex, phone, mobile, email, subject 1, level 1, blah, blah, blah. Right? So which subject are they learning? What level are they at? Are they on an individual or a group class format? How many subjects? There's a provision for up to 3 subjects that you can do it here. Now, this information is maintained all here, but if you have to take out the information about, say, Soham and where his name is going to pop up, and if you want to search for his email ID or anything, you just go to the student form and start typing here, SOH, and you will see Sohani and Soham. So you click on this and you will see what instrument is he learning, drums, intermediate individual. Soham is a female. This is date of birth, date of joining, phone number, mobile number, email. If the status is active or inactive. You type anything, even if you start typing with the second name, say Dylan. The moment you do this, you will see that Abhay Dylan is learning piano. This is the level. He's learning only one instrument. There could be students learning multiple instruments like this, piano and singing. They're both at intermediate level, both individual, female, date of birth. Somebody obviously has not entered this. Date of joining, all these details can be here. And this is something that you can start typing in straight away. First name, second name, middle name, whatever, and you will see the options. So it's predictive text. So you'll be able to see this. Then we go to the invoice. This is how you make the invoice. I select a student, say Ansh Katyal. The instrument pops up automatically. This is obviously going to be the first instrument. If you have to make multiple instruments, I'm going to show you how to do that. You can just enter the date, and the date is going to be in the Indian format, which is DDMMYY. So suppose I'm making this on the 20th of August 2020. This format needs to be copied, sorry. I'm going to copy all these formats to you. So it will be like something like this, right? And you have all the dates. You select September, suppose. You select monthly, monthly group, quarterly or quarterly group. You can add more things here if you like. So suppose I do monthly, the fee will pop up automatically. And if you're going to share this file with your admin, they will not have the access to alter the figure here. This is going to be an automatic figure. If you have other fees like admission fees, it'll pop up automatically as per your data. Concert fees, suppose you want to charge 2,000 rupees for a concert fee or a rejoining fee of 750. And there's a concert fee also. And if there are other charges, suppose this person had bought a book and 500 rupees are pending from that, you can add that here. And you can see the net amount is being calculated automatically. Deductions, if you want to give them a discount of say 200 rupees for something. So this is deductions. You can mention that here. Net amount will show automatically. You can select cash, check, fund transfer, card payments. You can decide all of those things. You can put the details here. Say it's an SBI check and some number is there. And you can see who's presenting this invoice, like who's creating this invoice. You can do that. And if there's any remarks, you can do that. If you mark that, suppose somebody has paid a pending fee, you can just write pending. And you can see that the name has gone in red automatically. That means he has not paid his complete fee. You can make a note of how much fee is pending in the remarks, and you can make another receipt whenever he makes the remaining amount, put the amount already paid in the deductions and make another receipt. So now after you made the invoice, the next thing you need to do is print the invoice. How you do that is you go to invoice printing and type in the receipt number, invoice number, and all the information will pop up automatically. You can see the monthly fee is this much, rejoining is this, concert fee is this, other charges 500, gross total this, deductions any, and even the remarks will show here. In case you're saying 500 rupees for the book or whatever you want, you can mention here. And you can just hit the print and it will show you this. So you can print this. If it's showing more than one page or something, then the format is the problem. You can just click on fit to one page and it will print all in one page, right? So this is how it works. Then there is this, the attendance sheet where you maintain all the attendance for everybody. And I'm just going to explain why some names are in the red and why others are in the black and some are in the blue. This is a lot of color coding in this actually. So suppose we are marking attendance for Amira. We mark present here. The key is given on the top. P for present, A for absent, R for reschedule, F for student not available, F for faculty not available, so on and so forth. You can do that. You can type P, or suppose this person is absent here, you can type A. And suppose it was a rescheduled, say, student was not available on this date, and we reschedule that class on this date. So we can do all of that. At the end, it'll show you how many presents, how many absence, and all of those things in the month, right? And now, somehow in my academy, how we function is that if there's a single class attended by the student in the month, we basically do a total of how many students were present, at least for one class, and the teacher is eligible to get paid for that student for the whole month. So if you go to the bottom of the sheet, it'll show you the count of how many people were present in that 1 month. So this logics and everything I'll explain in a bit, but this is how it works. All the students who have not paid the fee for the month of September, you can see at the bottom, the sheet is for September 20. All the students who have not paid the fee, the teacher name for that student is going to be in red. And all the students who have signed up for the Rock School exam, their name is going to be in blue. So at a glance, you will see if the student has paid the fee, not paid the fee, is he signed up for an exam or not. It happens many times that, we are, what's this? Okay, Mr. Dinesh Ahuja is tapping Binod. I don't know why. Melor, please look into this. Huh? So this is how the names are going to be in blue, highlighted in blue. So you will see how it works is this. So we have the exam and the fee information file. And here, if the invoice is created, you will need to type in yes or N for no. And depending on what you have typed in here, it will basically show the name in blue. So suppose, sorry, not the name in blue, but the fees. If the fee received is N for the month of September, the teacher's name is going to be in red here. But if the fee is paid and you have marked yes for that, it will turn black. That means you always have an eye on which student has paid the fee, which student has not paid the fee. And that is something often we'll need to chase with the students on monthly or the quarterly basis, depending on how your academy functions. For the exams, all you need to do is type Y in this. And suppose we type some more Y's here, right? And you will see Aditya Raj or Ansh Katyal, I have marked them yes. And you will see that the names will turn in blue here. You will see them turn in blue for sure. There it is, Ansh Katyal. So that is in blue now because I marked yes against his name right here. So where is that? If I delete this or type anything else, the name will turn back to black, right? We have also cleverly done the filtering. So in case you want to mark the attendance for say students on a Tuesday, you can do that by data filters. You can create filters and just select Tuesday and it will show you only the details of that particular day. So this is basically what the solution is. And now obviously I'm going to get into detail and explain each and every aspect of how it really functions and what all you will need to know to kind of adapt this sheet for your database, how to import the database into the calendar or into this whole system, what not to do to spoil the formulas and everything, how to lock your sheets, all of those things I'm going to explain in detail. If you have any doubts or any questions or any feedback about it, you can always put it on the chat, and we are keeping an eye on that, right? So let me go back to sharing the calendar, and I will start with the calendar, right? Right, so this is the calendar, and first thing we start is how do we create a calendar, right? So we're done with the overview. Sorry, I have a checklist which I'm ticking off as I go through each of the things. First thing is how do you create a calendar? So you can see that all these teachers' names are there on the left. I'm going to create a calendar for a new teacher. So I'm just going to hit the plus button and say create new calendar. And I will type in a name of a teacher. Say I will just call it new teacher, right? And I'll put a description that he teaches piano and theory, right? And which the owner is obviously your account. So we are the owner of it and everything, and I'll create calendar. Once you do this, this calendar will show on the left-hand side here. It takes a minute. It says calendar creation process. Now it is done. So if I press the back arrow or I press the escape key, it is the same thing. I go back to this view. And if I go down here, you will see new teacher right here. I can click these three dots and select a different color for it. And as you can see, I have already a lot of colors. So if I want something unique color, I can just go to add custom color, select say maybe a black color, and I save it. Now this calendar is going to be in black, right? So this is the calendar that I'm on. So if I click anywhere on this sheet, I can create an event and I can select which calendar I want to make the event in, right? So suppose I'm going to say a new student, okay? And I select this is not going to be in this calendar. I'm putting it to the new teacher, and event is basically a class. I can set the end time for this class that I want it to be a 45-minute class, right? And it's not an all-day event. Does it repeat? Typically, it should repeat on every Monday if I'm creating this on a Monday. And add location if I want to add a Zoom or anything to it. Obviously, Google will give you an option of add a Google Meet video conferencing thing. You don't need to do that. And you can add notification or just click save, right? So once I do that, and if I go to the monthly view and I see only this calendar, display this only, I will see this new student is added on the 14th, and he's going to be showing for every month. You can see this. Indefinitely, it will show, I can go to today, and I'll see this, that indefinitely this event is going to be repeated, right? So this is how you create a calendar, and this is how you create an event. Good thing about the event, you click on this, you can click on this pencil button, and this will open it. Suppose I want to change the time of the student. The moment I change the time, so say to 10:30, the end time will automatically adjust to keep the gap between the start and the end time to be 45 minutes automatically. So that works really well with Google Calendars. You can just save that. In case this student is shifting from this teacher to another, you have to just click on this and select another teacher, and it will go to that, right? It's really simple. You can add guests, and I'm going to show you how the sharing works later, right? So this is how you create the calendar. Next thing is, if you're running an academy and you already have a lot of schedules running, it is going to be a very tedious job to import all of these students and classes into this. So Google has a very beautiful tool, import tool that you can use. One second, let me just make this a little smaller so I can see the complete window. All you need to do is go to settings. And these templates we are going to share with you. You click on import and export, right? And you can select a file from the computer, add to which calendar. Suppose I'm going to add it to the new teacher calendar. I can select a file on the computer and import. Before I do this, one thing that I need to do, sorry, I'm going to cover that in the next topic. So let me just show you the file of how this file really works. So as you can see that I've already got some of the database here. I can just type in a new student name, say Ayush. The subject is going to be the student name. Then you put the start date, say I'm putting 13/9/20. By default, because we are in India, by default, the format of the date is going to be DDMMYYYY, right? By default, the Google Calendar format is not this. So this can cause a bit of a problem. So I'm going to explain how to solve that problem. Suppose I want to put this class at 11 a.m. I do this. It is best to put your time format here in 24-hour format. So as you can see, 16:20 in the evening is going to be 18:20. But if I click on the cell On the top, it will show 6:20 p.m. because the cell is in a time format. So it will always pick up the time like this. You can go to the date, and safest to just copy the same date to that. If you copy another date, this event is going to run through the days. Suppose the end time is going to be 11:45. I do that. Is it an all day event? False. If you make this true, then these things don't matter. It's just going to be the date, and it's going to be an all day event. Description typically is the teacher name and the instrument. So you can just, I'm just going to copy that. Location, if you want to mention Zoom or anything, you can do that. Is it a private event or not? That's false, and that can cause some sharing issues. Once you've done that, you have to save it as a CSV file. Do not save it in an Excel format. It has to be saved as a CSV file. And this warning will show on the top, possible data loss, which is absolutely fine. This is in a CSV format and not an Excel format. That is absolutely fine. Don't worry about that warning. Just save it and close it. Once you're done with that, I will go back to my calendar and I will go to that settings bit again. Now, before I go to the import, what I'm going to do is, yeah, there it is. So it says the date format. So you have to choose how you want the date to be. You want the month in the middle or month at the beginning. By default, Google Calendar has this as the format. That is what you need to avoid. Just select this if it's not already that, right? Once you do that, your import is going to work seamlessly. You can just click on import after that. Click on the calendar that you want it in, new teacher. Select the file from the computer, blank CSV, and there you go. And just click on import. Once you do that, it'll say 6 events imported, right? You have to be very careful that the format of the CSV file is exactly as per the format that I've given you. If you, instead of subject type student, it is not going to take it. The events will not be created, right? If the date is in a wrong format, the events will definitely be created, but they will show a month instead of dates and all of those things. That can cause a bit of a problem. So I go back to this and you can see that all these events are showing here, right? So I just finished the importing class schedule. Date formats I've done. Viewing calendars is the next thing. So one thing that you need to do is, it is not by default going to be a recurring event. So this is the only tedious manual job that you will need to do. So you click on this event, click on the pencil, edit event, and here you need to select weekly on a Monday. It will by default to show the day on which this event is created. So the moment you do this and click save, it will be saved. Now you will see that there are 2 events which are showing as recurring events. One by one, you will need to do this. There are shortcuts that can save time to do this, but you can't edit multiple events for this. There are ways on Google, there are videos on Google saying that, you can create recurring events on Excel. You can do that if you know when the recurring event is going to end. If you want to create a recurring event which is indefinitely recurring, it is not possible with that. So please don't waste your time on that. It is not going to work. Right. So next thing is how we can view this format. And on the top right corner, you will see here, there are multiple ways in which you can view this format. 4 days format, schedule format, year format, month format, week format, and a day format. So let's start with the top D. These are the shortcuts that you can use for this. So if I don't select this and I press a D on my computer keyboard, it shows me the days format. And I'm not able to see any schedules because all my calendars are not selected. So tip here is that you can choose to select or display only one calendar very easily by doing this, but there is no option to display multiple calendars in one click. The quickest way of doing it is click on the checkbox, not on the name, click on the checkbox once, and then you can use the down arrow and the space bar to subsequently activate the following calendars. So that's all you need to do. It doesn't take much. As you can see, and whatever you don't need to see, tasks I don't need to see, this I don't need to see, you can see all of those things. So I can go to the week schedule by pressing W. I can click on a date here if I want to see a particular date's schedule. So if I say I want to see 10th or 11th for that matter, I will see that day's schedule so easily like that. If I press an A button on the keyboard, which is going to be schedule, I will see it in a list format like this. So on a particular date, which students have a class. You can actually take a screenshot of this and broadcast it on WhatsApp to your students if you like. So everybody, each one of the students will know when their class is. Who the teacher is, they already know. And this color codes can be matched with the teacher's name if you like. If you're not sure who the teacher is, the quickest way is just click on it once and it'll show the teacher name here, because you have put the teacher name in the description. It's really important that you put the teacher name in the description, right? So this, Sukha is the teacher, Geeta, Isha is the teacher, Aditya is the teacher. So it's really important that you have the teacher's name there, right? So that's how it works. Shortcut to go to the edit is E button on the computer. If I press E, I will be able to edit that particular event. And to save is Command S or Control S on your Windows machine. So that's how it works. So these are all the views on the calendar. Now, next thing that comes is, suppose we are on a 4-day schedule and I can see a lot of schedules. I'm going to use this black calendar because these are all dummy data, which I'm going to delete after this. So suppose this particular student name 4, so number 4 student is not going to come for the class on this Monday for some reason, all right? Or he has called you saying that my class is at 2:10, but can you please give it to me at 5 o'clock? Fair enough, we can do that. How do we do that is simply just click and drag it to 5 p.m., right? And it'll ask you, do you want to change this event or all the following events? If you want to permanently change the schedule of the student to this time, then you click this and the following events. And if you want to change it only for this particular week, you click on this event. If you click on all events, it will also change the past events, the past classes. So suppose the student has been with us since say July this year, and in the September, we are making this change. If you click on all events, all the past classes will also change, which is possibly not desirable. So typically you would say this event. So do that. So it's gone to 4:55, not exactly 5, easy to fix. Go to the edit, click on this and select 5 p.m. And if you want to say, add some more data, this was a substitute class taken by teacher 2, right? Whatever it is, teacher name. You can click on save. The moment you do this, it'll again ask you this event or the following event. So I'll say this event, and that's done. So now you can see that this name is at 5 o'clock, and this is how you change the recurring class schedules. Very simple stuff. Shortcuts to save time. I've already shown you that these are the shortcuts of different views of the calendar that you can see. If you're in the edit view, Command S, so E is the shortcut for getting into the calendar. And once you made the changes, suppose you change it to, do I have the recurring event? Oh yeah, one more thing I want to show you about the recurring event right now. But basically just to save anything is Command S, right? So one more thing I want to show you as a recurring event is, suppose I go to this event and this student number 3 is taking a class with this teacher, but this teacher somehow is a senior teacher and he teaches only twice in a month. So you want this recurring event to be bi-monthly and not weekly. Now there's no option of bi-weekly here, bi-monthly here. So I would go to custom and I'll select repeat every 2 weeks. And suppose this person takes classes every alternate week, but he takes 2 classes every alternate weeks. You can decide which day do these classes happen, Monday and Friday. So suppose I do this, and it will now be recurring every 2 weeks, and it will be on Monday and Friday. When does it end? Never is where it is set right now. Whenever the student discontinues, you can discontinue from that day if you like. If you know which date he's going to fly out to another country and he's not going to be able to learn with you or whatever, you can select a date that he's going to be with us only till the end of November or something. Or if you want to keep the student for only 12 classes, you can say that you can discontinue this after say 12 occurrences. You can do all of those things. Suppose I do this, and to save, I had just had to press Command S and it's done. This and the following events, yes. So there you go. If I go to the monthly view, you will see this name. Let me just show you only this calendar. You will see this name is now occurring every 2 weeks, and he has 2 classes in that week. So this is how the custom recurring can also be set, right? Now changing the current schedule, taking notes without affecting the recurring events is the next topic. Changing current schedules is not a problem if you want to change the schedule of say particular student. So let me just go to today. or I go to the 14th. Now this is the current schedule. If I want to change this permanently to another time, I just have to select this and the following events, and it is done forever, right? Once you do that, how do you take notes? Suppose this person has had a class with you, and suppose you have shared this calendar with the student, and what you choose to do is on this particular event, that means 14th of September, I have taught the student and I have certain notes, teaching notes for him. So you can type in teaching notes here, whatever they are, and click on save and say this event only. So this student, particular student, can go back to this date, open this class, and he will be able to see all the practice notes that you have given them for that particular week. Going forward, you can always come back to the week before and check what was given last week. And you can do that simply by in the schedule view. So you can go backwards by date, right? You can do all of those things, right? You can also search. This is a very good tool. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a bit. Sharing and permissions. Let me see reschedules. Yeah, yes, that is coming up. Next thing is, how do you share a calendar? And there are multiple permissions that you can give for sharing a calendar, right? So let me go to the weekly view and you can see the calendar. This calendar is starting on the 14th, so you can see this. Suppose I want to share this calendar with this new teacher. I just click on these three buttons and click on settings and sharing. I click on this, and below it will have an option of how you can share this. You can just add people to this, and you can type in any name that you have. The most used email IDs will pop up on the top, but you can type an email at something.com, right? Whatever it is. I click on send. I hope nobody gets it. But do you want to send an invite? Do not invite or invite. The following people do not have a Google Calendar account. So if they don't have a Google Calendar account, you can invite them. And I think they will be still able to see the calendar. I have not tried actually sharing it with the non-Google account. Typically, everybody has an Google account. So there you go. So an email at something.com is there. Now it's shared. Now you can decide what detailing do you want the event to be shared at. So do you want them to make changes to the events? You can do that. So they can make changes to the events, but they can't manage the sharing of it. You can say manage changes, make changes, and sharing. This is the highest access for that calendar. If you do this, the benefit is that that teacher will actually be able to add this to their, say, Apple Calendar or any other Google Calendar or any other calendar as their own calendar. It will show as their own calendar. So it's very easy to sync into that, and the events will show. Otherwise, this will show as a shared calendar event. I hope that is like understood pretty easily. So I will just to disconnect someone, just click on the X and that's gone. So what else is left? Sharing and permissions is done. Managing informed cancellations, reschedules, and backup. Now, this is a tricky turf that we need to see a month on, especially when we have calendars like these, so many calendars. Let me just switch some of these calendars on. Right, I've switched on all my calendars. Now, suppose I want to see how many classes in this month, and I go to the month view, have been cancelled by the student or informed cancellations. What I have very cleverly chosen to do for my own academy is I'll go to search and I put a code. For example, let me go to the new student. Where is this new student here? So I'll go to edit this and I will put in a code, say #77. There is a reason I'm using a hash, because if you're using the phone numbers in the descriptions or anywhere, it will also, and that phone number has 77 in it, that will also pop up. So use a hash or a special character with it, and then you'll be safe. 77 is a code that is mutually understood within my team that it is the code for cancellation. #88 is for reschedule. #99 is for faculty not available. So you can just click on save that, and this event or the following event, you always do this for this event, and that's done. Now, when I go to the search and I type #77 and hit search, it will show me all the classes that were canceled by the student in that particular month. Isn't that cool? So that's really simple to do. You just have to go to that particular event and type in #77. So these three students had actually canceled classes on the 1st and the 8th of September. And I'll see it in a flash, right? That's how it works. So you can have different codes set for different things in your calendar that could be mutually understood within your team. The last thing to do is, how do you export a calendar? Suppose you have created this calendar on your own email ID, and now you need to share this with your team's email ID. Obviously, you can share it and make them the owner of the calendar with full permissions. But easy way to do it is just click on settings and go to import and export and go to export. Now you select which calendar. It actually will export all the calendars that you choose. I think it will only export all the calendars. Just click on export, and that way you will have a backup of everything. And you can save, import those calendars seamlessly into any Google Calendar in a flash. Unless you like, as long as you don't have to add more data to it, you can export it, because this is not exported in a CSV format. This is exported in an iCal format. So that's going to be a different file. So the data is not really editable easily by us, right? So that is the end of the Google Calendar part of it. Is there anything that you guys would like to ask in the Google Calendar?
Can we put a small caveat for the student next class lesson plan? Can we do that in this calendar?
Say that
What
again.
is his? Hello.
Yes.
Suppose next week when he comes and I want to see what is the lesson plan that I had given him.
The last week.
Yes. Yeah. Whether he has done this lesson plan. So can we add that in this caveat in this calendar so that we also know what lesson I had given him last week, whether he has done it in this week?
So, well, if you share the calendar with the student, he can add it in the descriptions. In
That
here,
can be done. That can be done in this calendar. Okay.
Yes. In fact, it has a lot of formatting options. You can even attach a file to it. You can have a bulleted numbers if you like.
Okay, okay, fine. That is what I wanted to know. What is the next lesson plan, whether we can add that. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. You can add a file to it. You can add a link to it. You can add bullet points to it. All of those things are there.
Definitely. Yes. Normally what I do is I send a caveat in the form of, I send it in WhatsApp. So this can be, it can be implemented in this itself.
Absolutely, because WhatsApp is going to be hard to search for the information. Yeah. On the calendar, it's just a flash.
It's just flash, yeah.
Because you're looking at this particular student, you go back to the same student here, and just you can see the descriptions here as well. But you can just click on the event and you see all the detailed descriptions here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
It's very easy to do. Any other questions about this? Right, then I'll give myself a big tick for that. So that's a lot of work done. I hope that that is helpful for people who are not using Google Calendars right now. It's going to be a very useful tool. I am managing 3 branches of my academy on this right now. The 4th one is running still on the old system, and it's a breeze. Like, I have about 250 odd students which I manage on this by 3 team members who are doing it seamlessly, and I'm able to manage everything with them. Right. So now I'm going to get to the CRM solution. Right. We are making good time. We started like 5-7 minutes late. There you go. Now, CRM overview, I have already given how this kind of functions. So you have to start kind of backwards if you look at the sheets at the bottom. Now, first thing I will tell you is that, Excel sheets and the multiple sheets and the workbook and all of those things, it's like your work desk. You can make it as messy as you want, or you can keep it as organized as you want, right? So it is how you use it that makes it organized. It's not the sheet itself or not the Excel itself that makes it messy. I have dealt with a lot of very messy sheets, and it's very difficult to get the data out of it the way you want it. So it's really important that any software, be it a custom solution, be it Salesforce, be it Excel, what you feed in is what you get. If your feeding in is not accurate or it's messy, then what you get is also going to be messy, right? So you can see that there are only a couple of sheets down here, but if you click on this, all sheets here on the left, you will see that there are a lot more sheets that are not visible right now. That is because I keep the sheets that I don't need to use on daily basis hidden, right? So there is a lot of data sheets, and I'm going to open those sheets and show you how they function, right? So first thing first is adding a student. So let's add a student. These are the imports from my current software. So you don't need to worry about registration ID. You can create your own registration ID if you like. Very easy to do, right? So suppose I type in a student, say Rohan, right? Now, one thing that I've done in this is, suppose I type a name of a student who is already there. For example, Vipul Gupta. You can see it here on row 99. There is Vipul Gupta. If suppose I have another student whose name is also Vipul Gupta, that is quite possible, but it's not going to be very possible because typically active students, which are not going to be too many, to find the same name is going to be difficult. But if that happens, again, as I said, this is not comparable to a Zoho or a Salesforce kind of a solution. There are quick fix to it. As you can see, there is Vineet Gupta and there's another Vineet Gupta whose date of birth is different. Oh, they are the same, possibly. But one is a drum student, one is an acoustic guitar student. They're actually two different people. They both names is Vineet Gupta. I have added an underscore in the second name. But when the database grows big, it will be hard to figure out if you're duplicating a value or not. For example, suppose I'm typing row 88, which is Somnath. The moment I do this, it will highlight that it is a duplicate value. This name already exists. So it will automatically highlight that for you. All you need to do is change this name slightly. Maybe add an underscore at the end or in the middle or something like this. Or you just call it Somnath 2 if you like. Right? Whatever you want to do, you can do that. So if Somnath has an objection by being called 2, you can just add underscore in the name like this. So this is what you can do. For now, let me just take a new name, Rohan, right? And I'm putting his date of birth. Let me just copy paste it from the top just to save time. And I'll do this. This is a mail and I'll put in some random number, some mobile number and some email ID. Let me just put the same email ID again. And this is active. If certain students leaves you, you can call it inactive. The moment you do that, you will see that the status says 100 on the top. The moment you make it active, it is 101. So it is giving you a count of how many active students you have in your database as of now, right? So you always have an eye of how many active students you have in your branch. You put in the instrument, say piano and intermediate and individual class. And if you have a second name, say drums, and this is also going to be intermediate and individual. You can have different ways to do this. Suppose this guy is learning third instrument as well, say singing. And this is also at intermediate level. How cool is that? Say beginners level, and this is a group. Suppose I do all of this. So now this name is added here. Now when I go to the student form, I start typing in Rohan. He will pop up and all his information will pop up in a flash, right? Now, let me tell you that all these cells, most of these cells, obviously left hand, these cells are just titles. All of these cells contain formulas, as you can see on the top, right? So this is how it works. The formulas are automatically functioning, and I'm going to show you a way to log these formulas in a bit. So this is where it starts. Now, first thing first is going to be setting this file for yourself. So you will start at entering the data of the students, your students' data here. When I share this file with you, you will not have any of this information. I'll just have one dummy row of data for you, which you can change as per your own data, and you can adapt that. Student data is the first thing you add. Then you go to the exam fee info. This is where you will add the student name. As soon as you add the student name, let me go. Wow, there's a lot of students. So if I suppose start typing Rohan, the moment I do this, his first instrument will pop up on the left, right? This is something that you can override. It has a formula on the top. You can see there's a formula on the top, but you can override this formula. This cell is open. So what you can do is Rohan, and you can say drums. You can do that, right? And then you can mention that Rohan is going to be signed up for the exam for drums. This is going to be the Rock School sheet on the top. So let me just, this is how you freeze the top row, and this is how you freeze the columns. So now you will always have a visibility on the heading when you scroll down. So you can see that he signed up for both of these. His name has to be in the attendance sheet. That means he's assigned to a particular teacher. So what I will do is I will go to the bottom of this thing and I'll start typing Rohan and I will type the teacher name. As you see, his name has already turned blue because he signed up for an exam. And I will say Vishal Chaudhary, right? So this is how it works. Now here, looking at this, you don't know whether, obviously by the teacher name, you will know what instrument he's learning. We all know who our teachers are and what they're teaching. But here you will not be able to know which exam is he signed up for. If he's signed up for any particular instrument, his name is going to turn blue. It is not going to be dependent on the teacher, right? So this is how it works. As you can see, his the name of the teacher has not gone red. And that is because I have not marked fee not paid for him. The moment I say not paid for him, his teacher's name is going to turn red. That means the student has not paid his fee. Here you can write the day and you're ready to go. Let me not lose track. So this is how you import the sheet and this is how you start using it. Functionality I've already done. Student details I've done. Active student count I've shown you how the active student count is going to show on the student data file. Right on the top it's this. You can add the count for the second subject and the third subject also, but there's no guarantee that it's going to give you a count of the active students. It's just going to count how many of these rows have a subject assigned to it. I can share that formula later if you really want. Student information form is this. I've already shown you how that kind of works. Pretty easy. Next, we come to the invoice data. Now, this is where things can start getting a little complicated, right? So first thing, we have to set the values for all of these things. So I will go to the sheet, which is called the invoice lists. This is a hidden sheet. You click on this and it'll pop up. To hide the sheets again, you can just click on this and click on hide sheet and it's gone. It'll pop up here that you can click on the left and open it. So let me just open it again, invoice lists. So here you can see that there's a lot of database here. Up to the 15th row, I have this data that you can do. Suppose I want to add the name of the person who typically prepares the sheet as name number 1, which will be picked as standard by default. Sohan is the person who is making this sheet, suppose, right? And suppose I have a different fee for the monthly for advanced students, and that fee is, let's be nice to ourselves, 15,000, right? Monthly fee. Quarterly fee, quarterly advance, we can add that. And suppose we are charging 40,000 for this. Isn't that nice? Feels nice to charge that much. So we go back to the student data. And now if you click on the, obviously period is set there. Click on this, you will see that there is a monthly advance and a quarterly advance. The moment I click on this, it populates the next amount to 15, and that is showing in the net amount as well. So you can set all these fees, even the periods of which month are you looking at, all of those things right here in the invoice list, right? So you can put the amounts here. You can put the other fees, admission fee, concert fee, rejoining fee. Suppose you have some other fees, say, I don't know what, say, premium teacher fee, right? You want to charge 2,000 extra for a senior teacher. You can do that. Whatever you want to add, you can do that here, right? These are all the subjects. You can populate more if you like, right? Subjects, by the way, it's going to pick up by default from the student sheet, but you can override it again. So let me go to this. So if I select a student here, say I select Rohan, and it will automatically select the first instrument here by formula. But if you want to override it, you can do that. So you can type in, say, ukulele. You can do that. Select the period that is paying you for. You can select the period for October to December and all of those things. Rejoining fees, concert fees, whatever you want to add, any other charges you want to add, any other discounts you want to make. And yeah, the net amount will automatically pop up, mode of payment, all these things I've already shared with you, who is preparing the sheet. So as you can see, if you enter a data which is not valid, it will show this red error message there that you have entered something which is not there in the list. Because I changed the name onto Sohan, it is showing me that. So I have to choose Sohan or another name for it. You can do that. You can add the remarks. Discount because I like the guy, right? And pending fees, if you want to add pending, as I've showed you earlier, make sure that the spelling is right. The moment you type pending, the name will go to red. And then later on, if you want to see how many students have the pending fee, you can go to the data, click on create filters. And from here, you can select by color, filter by color, and it will only show you all the students whose fees is pending with you. To go back to the original view, just go to data and say turn off filters. That's how simple it is, right? You can create filters for as many things as you want, right? But if you want to create a filter for all the people who have paid in the month of September, say create filter. Oops, I don't know why I did not create filter. Turn off filters. Let me create filters again. This time it did it. And I will go to the, where is the month? Where is the month? Oh, it's not here. There it is. So I'm selecting the period and I'll go to this and I'll clear everything and select the month that I want to check it for. And I click OK. It will show me all the people who have paid for the month of September, right? You can turn off filter or select all if you like. In the period, you can go and select all. It will show you all the database of the people, right? It's that simple. This filters is a very useful tool. Turn off filters. So this is all the invoice data and the functionality of it, and the data invoice data list I've shown you. Invoice printing is very simple. You just go there and type in the invoice number. That is the only thing that you need to type. You type number 3. It will populate all the thing. Rohan, ukulele, monthly fees for the advanced level. Concert fee is this much, other charges this much, gross total this much, deduction this much. Here's my remark because I like this guy, discount because we like him, prepared by whoever. It's going to show up. I think that field is left blank there. You can go to that and you can see this was left blank. If I click on something, Sohan, now if I go back to that, it will show me the name presented by Sohan. You can press Command P or Control P on Windows and you can print this out. There is also, because we are online, we are not going to print out these things typically. We are going to send it by PDF. So I will show you how you do that. Go to File, go to Download, and go to PDF. That's how simple it is, right? You just click on PDF and it will show you this and you can just export, right? That's how simple it is. You can add your company name, your company address. If you want to add a logo of your company, you can do it here, right? Since you will be the owners of the sheets, even if I had added a Rock School logo to this, you would have had a very easy option to delete it. So I have not done that. But please remember that this whole solution is coming to you from Rock School, right? So would appreciate that. Now we come to the attendance part of it. So each month, you're going to duplicate the sheet for attendance. So I click on this and I click on duplicate, and that way you'll be easily able to duplicate that. I've already duplicated the sheet for October, November, and December, but you can do more duplicates. Obviously, this is not going to be a short-term solution for you. On the top, it automatically shows this key, and this key is coming from this sheet called attendance key, right? You can change these things. Present for present, P for present, A for absent. Suppose you don't want reschedule, but suppose you want substitute. So say SB, substitute, right? You want to do this and you say substitution, right? So you want to keep a track of that. So when I go back to this, it will show SB for substitution. And in the end here also it will say substitution SB, and it will give you a count of all of that. So suppose I'm doing SB for this. If I type anything which is not in the correct format, it's going to pop up. So suppose I say sub, it will show that red triangle there on the top right corner. That means I've entered an invalid input. It is not going to calculate any of these things. So just write SB and you're done. And you can mark present if you like. You can mark absent, whatever you want to type, and it will show you the count of it at the end. There were 2 substitutions. There was 1 absent and there's 1 present, right? So all of these can be managed very well here. So this is totally up to you. I've forgotten what I was doing there. Present, absent, reschedule is, so reschedule is what I had used. So you can do that. You can change those values from here. And this is currently mapped for the 5 values. So you can choose any of the 5 values that you like. If you type more, it is not going to pop up there. Unfortunately, as of now, I will be able to help you how to do this in a separate video, which we may post on YouTube later. So this is how the attendance really works. At the bottom, you will get a total of it. As I said, I have prepared it for about 200 students. So 199 is the students who can be marked attendance for. But if you want to add more to this, you can just select this, right click and insert 8 rows above. Because I've selected 8 rows, it is giving me an option of selecting 8. If you want to select more and do this, now it will give you the option of inserting 19 more above. So you can do all of that and the formulas will pretty much be there for you, right? What you should not be doing is clicking and dragging anything. I'm going to talk about the precautions later on. So report logic, I've shown you that if there's any attendance mark for anybody, so you can see that SB is no longer a valid input. So it is showing that it is an invalid input there, right? So
can I ask a question here?
Yes, please.
Ritesh, when I copy this sheet to, let us say, November, how does the date change, or should I have to manually enter the dates and days?
Thank you for asking that. Let me duplicate this for January, right? I click on duplicate, it creates a copy, and I will say Jan 20. What I need to do is this starting date is 9/1 right now. So I'm going to make it 1/1/21. The moment I do this, it changes the day on that particular date, and you just need to click on the bottom right corner and drag it to the right. And there are 31 days in this. So you will just need to add maybe one more to the right. Sorry, let me add one more to the left of this. I'll tell you why, because the formatting changes. One more to the left, and I'll just, sorry, let me just hide this, zoom. So I click on this and just drag it for 2 more dates. There you go. So that's done till January. And if you notice, there's a group icon on the top. So the moment I click on this minus right now, it will hide all the attendance and you'll be able to see the report without having to scroll anywhere. So this grouping I've already done for each month. So this is how you do it for the months.
Right, thanks.
There is one more thing that you will need to do, and that is going to be the feed you tracking. So feed you tracking is showing here, and right now it is mapped for the September month. How it is being done is a very simple formula, right? So this is the fee paid yes or no, and this is actually coming from a formula. And these are the couple of few formulas that you will need to edit yourself to use these sheets. Most of them are actually hidden, so you don't need to worry about them. How you do this is when you go to the fee and exam info, suppose I have this, so this is column L here, right? So you can see that this range is starting at the B and going to the H, right? So in the alphabetical series, which number is L? L is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. That's the 12th. So 12 minus 1, 11 number row. You just need to change this number before the false to 11. Now it will basically map it to January. Sorry, I'm going to change this for you. Don't worry about that, okay? Say Z. So I will do this, and you just need to click and drag this formula till the end. And you will see that all the names are going to be in red because none of these have paid the fee for the month of January. So this is one of the few formulas that you will need to tackle. And once you've done that, you should hide these rows, hide these columns, so your admin staff does not accidentally touch those formulas. It's just simple as that. One thing I would like to guide you with the data filtering on the attendance is when you click on this, you go create a filter, right? You see the filter on the top row, obviously. You click on this and suppose you clear everything and you want to see the attendance of a particular teacher, say Bhaskar. I click on this and I click OK. It shows Bhaskar, but it does not show which day and which date and all those things, right? So this is a problem. So how you solve it is, okay, I need to click on this filter. So right on the top, I say clear all, select all. Right on the top is this, let me just cancel the filters and show you this right from the start. Turn off filters, turn on filters. right on the top, you will see that the Bridge Music Academy and the teacher, these two rows need to be visible because they have the dates and the rows and the days on it. So you need to select those. So once you clear it, you can select these two, right? And I've purposely put AA here so they remain on the top of the list for you to select. So you first select these two and then you select any teacher. Say Himanshu Chaudhary, I do this, and I will see the attendance for this particular teacher for this month, and I will know which days and dates are those attendance marked upon, right? So this is how it works. So I was showing the RSL exam tracking. So here it's really simple that you put the yes in front of the name of the student. You put the instrument, say keys, you put the grade, say grade 4, and grade or performance grade, you can say grade. And is it a live video exam? I'm going to change this slightly. It is going to be a drop down where you can choose whether it's going to be a recorded video exam, live video exam, or a face-to-face exam. Once you, suppose I'm going to put a LVE here for now, you can maintain all this information right here, right? And you can just create data filter and click on RSL and unselect the blanks, and you will have the database. All the students will sign up for Rock School exam in one view. So that's going to be very helpful for you to track your Rock School exam students, right? This thing. We were on the safeguarding the data. So suppose you don't want them to be touching this. You want to be managing this yourself. Or for example, when we go to the student form, we don't want them touching with the formulas here. So what I do is select the cells that have the formula, right click and select protect range, right? Now you need to be logged in from your email ID for doing this, and you are the owner of the sheet. Once you do this, nobody can touch these cells, and you have selected the range, add a description. You don't need to do that, just say set permission, done. Now restricted, who can edit this? Only you can edit this right now. But if you want to give this access to more people, you can do that as well. Change permissions. So you can show custom. Here you can add more people by email ID who can edit this cells for you, right? So you can do that pretty easily here. Who can edit? Just go here. One, add editors, name of the email IDs. Say I'm adding Poonam, say BMA, and click on done. So who will be able to edit this range? Poonam will be able to edit this. If I do this, now she will also have access to edit this range, right? I'm not doing that right now. And I'm just going to cancel this and remove these protected sheets also. Trash, it's simple, remove. So you can click on this and click on the trash. It is going to remove the this thing. Once you become the owner, you'll have complete access to it, by the way. Once you become the owner of the file, you will have complete access to each and every cell of the sheet. You can safeguard your data by simply protecting. Suppose you don't want them to be when they're creating the invoice, you typically don't want them to be messing with the amounts unless it is the other charges and deductions. This is something that they can enter manually. Apart from this, you don't want all these gray columns to be editable. You just simply select this, right? Just select the top row, press Shift and Command and the down key. It will select the whole range till the cell 1000, as you can see here. Right click it and protects range. That's all you need to do. Then nobody else will be able to enter an amount that you don't want them to be able to enter, right? So this is how it works. So this is how you protect range and formulas. These sheets is something that you should protect all of it, because you don't want anybody to be able to be changing all of these things. So you just select and right click and say protect range and save those, and click on this down arrow, hide sheet. You don't need these sheets visible. Hide sheet. Once you've entered all the data, hide sheet, and the office staff will only be able to see the sheets that they actually need to use. Even the student data sheet, you don't need it visible because you will be able to pull out each student's information from here. But to add a new student, which hopefully is pretty regular with all of you, you will need to type the details of that new student right here. right? The last thing is selecting and dragging in formulas, right? Do not, so suppose I'm on this sheet and I have a formula which is say here, right here. I can see a formula here. In this one, I typed it manually. What I don't, if I want to just drag the formula, copy the formula to the next cell, you can either say Control C and go and Control V. That will do the trick for you. And you can see on the top left, this is C5, and I go to the next one, it automatically becomes C6. That is all fine. What you should not be doing is dragging the formula like this. You can see this hand icon. You click and drag. That can cause problems. See, it has now called it C5. So never drag with this hand icon. This is something that you should tell your staff to do. Never drag the formulas. You can copy paste it using Control C, Control V, or you can use this bottom right corner plus sign. So you can see how the mouse pointer changes to the small plus sign when you go to the bottom right of it. You can select and drag it, and that's a safe way to copy the formula. All right, Control C, Control V, or this, but never drag any formula cells. That is going to basically just take the data and transport it to another cell without changing it dynamically. So I think I've made pretty good time, and we have good 10-15 minutes left for any question and answers.